Welcome back to the channel. I'm Christy, and in today's video we're going to be talking about everything you need to know when arriving in Bali. Whether you're planning on staying here for a few weeks or a few months, keep watching because we will be covering everything from airport taxis to finding accommodation, both short and long term, transportation options including scooter rental, and finding a SIM card. Over the last few years, I've traveled and lived in Bali numerous times and have learned from my mistakes in the past, which is why I wanted to create this video and share with you my tips on how to arrive in Bali without spending more time or money than necessary. Before we jump in, it would mean the world to me if you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. It's a completely free way of supporting the channel and allows me to continue making videos for you that hopefully provide you value. Once you arrive at the airport in Bali, you're going to need a way to get to whichever area of Bali you're heading to. If you're planning on renting a scooter during your time in Bali, I would recommend waiting until you arrive at your accommodation to rent the scooter. We'll get to that later in the video. You will most likely have a bit of luggage with you, so hiring a taxi will be the most efficient way of getting to your destination. We're heading to Canggu, the digital nomad capital of Bali, and you can expect to pay around 300,000 rupiah or $21 to go from the airport to Canggu. The first option you'll have is to hire a driver at the airport upon arrival. Oftentimes, this is the most expensive option as they will quote you a higher price than the going rate. However, you can always negotiate with them. The second option is to hire a driver on the GoCheck app, which is similar to an Uber, so you'll be able to see the going rate before you book your driver. However, you will need an Indonesian SIM card in order to sign up for the app. As far as SIM cards go, you'll see them available for sale in the airport, but I recommend waiting until you get to your destination as the prices at the airport are more expensive. We'll cover this later in the video. The third option is to arrange a local driver before you arrive, which is what we did. A couple days before we arrived, I called up a driver I met a few years ago while living in Bali, and arranged for him to pick us up from the airport. It's always nice when you can build a relationship with a driver in Bali because not only is it more personal, but you know who you are supporting and can count on them for future trips to the airport and around Bali. I'll leave his contact info below, so feel free to WhatsApp him for your future trip. He has 3 little children and your business would help support him and his family. Make sure to mention the Nomad next door when you message him and he'll take care of you. The second thing we'll cover is accommodation. We're planning to stay in Bali for the next 4 months, so we just booked a place on booking.com for the first few nights to give us a chance to settle somewhere while we look for longer term accommodation. We chose to stay the first 3 nights at Lapan Nam Exotic Villas, which is an absolutely stunning property in the middle of the rice fields of Canggu. We paid 250,000 rupiah per night, which is about $18 for a joglo style room, which also includes breakfast. We can highly recommend staying here as it's close to the center of Canggu, but feels like a secluded retreat, making it the perfect place to unwind after a long journey. If you're staying in Bali long-term like we are, you'll probably want to find a long-term accommodation so you can receive a monthly rate, which can sometimes save you over 50% when compared to nightly rates. You should have no problem finding something regardless of whether your budget is $200 a month or $2,000 a month. The cheapest option is usually to rent a room in a guest house, which is similar to a hotel, but usually smaller and locally owned. This is what we ended up doing, and we're paying 3 million rupiah per month, which is about 210 USD. A step up from here would be to rent a room in a shared villa, usually with other digital nomads. I did this in the past and paid 8 million per month, or about $560 per month, at a beautiful joglo style villa with a pool. And finally, usually the most expensive option would be to rent an entire villa for yourself. Obviously, the price of this highly depends on how big it is and where it's located, etc. When searching for long-term accommodation, I recommend waiting until you get to Bali to book anything, as oftentimes the online prices are higher than the prices in person. You can begin your search on websites like booking.com and then visit the places once you arrive. Another strategy is to join a Facebook housing group for the area you wish to live in, for example, Canggu Community Housing. And then you can stay up to date with postings from other members in the group and directly communicate your interest with them. And a third method is to simply cruise around on your scooter, find places that look good to you, and then go up and ask them what their monthly rates are. This is what we did this time and wound up finding a place on the rice fields at a price that was honestly lower than we were expecting to pay. The next thing you'll want to organize is your transportation while you're in Bali. Most people find it practical to rent a scooter as it's an easy way to get around, and the roads in Bali are honestly built more for scooters than cars, in my opinion. Plus, you'll avoid a lot of traffic if you have a scooter as opposed to a car. For a scooter rental, you can easily find scooter shops around town if you're in one of the more touristy towns in Bali. For a daily rate, you can expect to pay between 50 to 100,000 per day, depending on your negotiation skills. For the longer term, you should be able to pay 500 to 800,000 rupiah per month, depending on the location and the bike. We rented ours for 4 months from a local guy named Gusti, and he brought the bike to our villa and we paid him for the first month on the spot. Usually, to rent a bike, you'll just need to send them a photo of your passport and pay them in cash for the first month. The bike should also include a helmet. I will leave the contact info for Gusti bike below, and you can WhatsApp him if you want to rent a scooter in the Canggu area. If you aren't keen on the idea of riding a scooter, you can also hire a local driver to take you around, or hire a Gojek. There are tons of local drivers around Bali, like our friend Ajus from the airport, that you can hire for a daily rate. If you're just looking to go from point A to point B, then I would recommend taking a Gojek. Remember the app I mentioned earlier? The rates are very affordable, especially if you choose the scooter option, in which a driver will pick you up on their scooter and take you to your destination. Sometimes it can cost just a couple bucks to take a half-hour Gojek. The final thing in our guide is getting a SIM card. Although a SIM card isn't totally necessary since you have Wi-Fi at just about every business in Bali, it's definitely handy to have when you're out driving around and need directions, and it is necessary to have if you plan on using the Gojek app. In my opinion, it's worth having one, especially considering the low cost of data. You can easily drive down the road wherever you're staying and see numerous shops with banners outside advertising SIM cards. Stop at any of them and ask about their deals. We ended up paying 200,000 rupiah or $14 for 35 gigabytes of data from the provider Telkomsel, which is supposedly the best carrier in Bali. In order to buy a SIM card, you will be required to show them your passport so they can register you as the owner. This is apparently for national security purposes. That concludes our Bali travel guide. I hope you found this information helpful. Please feel free to share with anyone you know who is planning on going to Bali, and hopefully you can save them some time and money. If you haven't already, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you can be notified when our future Bali videos are released. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you later.